Hello everyone, can you hear me? All good? Okay. Hi everyone and welcome at my talk. I'm Daniel Laskewitz. I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. And what that basically is that I work in developer relations. So I work with a lot of developers to talk about Power Platform. And what I usually do is I speak a lot at events, like these for instance, but I also create content on videos, I create blogs, I create all kinds of learning modules, I do a whole bunch of things there. And I focus on the Power Platform, and that's also why I'm speaking here, because the Power Platform is a low-code platform in Microsoft, and what we have there is a bunch of products, and one of those is Copilot Studio, and that's our big product on AI. And today I'm going to talk about building and extending agent experiences with Copilot Studio. And the agenda will be an overview of Copilot Studio. That's what I will start with. So I'm going to talk you through what Microsoft Copilot Studio is and what you can do with it. Then I'll talk about building agents with Copilot Studio. I'll also talk a little bit about AI Builder, Prompt Builder, because that's a really cool way to infuse your agents within Copilot Studio with AI. And then I'll talk also about extensibility, because Copilot Studio is a low-code product, so you can create agents with low-code, but I also want to talk a little bit about how you can, for instance, combine that with Azure, which is a more pro-code approach, and I will talk about that as well. So let's first start with Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is, as I said, it's a part of the Microsoft Power Platform. And the Microsoft Power Platform, this is the whole overview slide that we have for the Power Platform. It consists of a bunch of products, and that's basically the outer row. So what you can see here is, you can see Power BI on the left, which is the analytics product. So you can create analytics on top of your data. Next we have Power Apps. Power Apps is for application development. So what you can do there is you can create all kinds of apps really easily with a low-code editor. Then we have Power Automate, and that's for all your automation purposes. Power Automate has, for instance, RPA capabilities, but it will also have AI automation kind of capabilities. Next, and that's the topic where we're going to talk about today, we have Copilot Studio, and Copilot Studio is for creating agents. And then lastly, we have Power Pages, and Power Pages is for website development. So whenever you have, for instance, an experience where you want to have your inside data, so for instance, you have a company, you are maybe a health insurance or something like that, you always have a whole bunch of internal data with invoices, with all kinds of things that people can register. And that is sometimes something you want to bring to your customers. So in case of health insurance, you might want to have people who have health insurance at your company. They will need to be able to create, for instance, their receipts or their invoices from the things that they do. They can then do that through Power Pages, for instance. So you have an external facing website which will connect your outside world with your inside world, basically. And next we have a whole bunch of supporting parts. The thing that I'm going to talk about today is AI Builder, which is a low-code way of creating AI. The other parts are also really interesting, like Power FX, which I'm going to show you a little bit as well. It's a formula language in the Power Platform, and the formula language is based on Excel formulas, which kind of sounds weird, but it's basically based on Excel formulas, and that is because a lot of business people who work with low-code tools already know Excel language, so they have maybe in the past created an Excel formula, and that's what we build upon. We also have connectors, which is really interesting because that will connect to back-end services. So if you are building your agent, you might want to talk to certain back-end systems. Maybe you want to talk to ServiceNow, maybe you want to talk to Salesforce. All those things are available as a connector, and that's what we're going to show you in a little bit as well. So when we are talking about AI and about Copilot, a lot of people are already seeing a lot of really interesting stuff in AI, but they are all really interested in what does it actually help me with? What are the use cases? And that's really the question that everybody has on their mind. Within Microsoft, we think that we have Copilot, which is our assistant kind of capability that we have. So every employee will probably have a Copilot where they can talk to, where they can ask questions about all the things that they have in their world. So for instance, if they want to ask questions about emails, about meetings that they had in the past, that's where Copilot will be. And that will work as your personal assistant. And then on top of that, we will create agents, and agents will be more like business processes that will have an agent. So you can, for instance, for an IT business process, you can create an agent, or for an HR process like onboarding, you can create an agent for that. And that's basically how it works together. So you have Copilot for your personal assistant kind of things, and then on top of that, you have agents that will be more specified on certain business processes that you have. And when we look at the agents part, you will have agents that you can build yourself. So for instance, also within the Copilot experiences within Microsoft, you can build your own agent. So if you have a specific kind of need that you want to have an agent for, you can build those really easily from that as well. You have agents that Microsoft will build. So you will, for instance, get like employee self-service agents, you will get maybe document processing agents. There's a whole bunch of different agents that you can easily use within the Microsoft ecosystem as well. And next, you will also have agents that will be built by ISVs. So this is also an opportunity for developers, because you will be able to create, for instance, an agent, and you will be able to make that available for people all around the world, and then they could purchase your agent, for instance, and then they can use that as well. So if we look at Microsoft Copilot Studio, Microsoft Copilot Studio is our end-to-end product for agents, which can let you build your own agent or extend the Microsoft 365 Copilot, for instance, that we have. And that will make it possible for you to build your own agents on your own data, and add a whole bunch of capabilities to it. So when we talk about building agents, we usually have a life cycle for that. So when we are in Copilot Studio, you usually start by creating an agent. You start by creating an agent. You can do that, for instance, by going through a wizard. You have a conversational wizard where you just have to answer a bunch of questions, and then it will generate an agent for you. And of course, it's not 100% done then, but it will give you a head start. It's more of like, you can see it like a template which you go through, and that is what you can do. Apart from that, you also have templates that are already built for you. So I'm going to show you one later on in a demo where you can easily create an agent by just clicking on a button, which is the template, and then it will already have a whole bunch of things specified for you. But when you are done creating an agent, you might want to add knowledge to that agent. So for instance, you want to maybe add public websites to it so that the users of that agent can ask questions about that. Or you want to maybe enter a SharePoint site to it so that they can ask questions about certain documents you have in your SharePoint environment. And that's more of like a RAG pattern that you will have. So you can ask a question and you will get a response by AI back from the agent. Then you can add logic to your agent as well by adding topics. And topics are like conversations that you can build, and I'll show that also in a demo, but you can kind of build the conversation your way. So what you can do then is you can add questions, and then based on those answers you can go through that whole conversation, and you can have a really streamlined conversation with your users. And that's a little bit different from the chat over knowledge part, because the chat over knowledge part is very much AI based. And with topics, you will more design it your own way, and it will also output all the stuff in your conversation the way you design it, basically. And with AI, you let a lot of a lot of the messages are generated by AI, so you have less control over what it basically says. Then we have actions and plugins. This is the part where we use the connectors. So those connectors, what I was talking about, we have those in the Power Platform, and there are more than 1,400 connectors available now. And those connectors are, for instance, connectors to ServiceNow, Salesforce. There's a whole bunch of different connectors available, and you can connect to those backend systems really easily and work with that. Then, when you have created all those things, you might want to make it available to your end users. You want to make those agents, you want to put them in the hands of your end users, and you can do that by adding channels. And channels are basically the places where your agent will be available. So a channel could be, for instance, Microsoft Teams if you want to do it internally, but you can also do a channel for instance, mobile apps. So you can add that to your own mobile app if you want to, or your own website. You can do that also. Facebook is an example, WhatsApp, you can add it to all kinds of different channels, and that can only enlarge the audience of your agent. And after that, when you added it to all those channels, you might want to see what the users are actually doing. Are they enjoying your agent, or are they not enjoying it? What should you improve, etc. Those kinds of things are possible in the monitor and improve stage, and that's basically an analytics view of your agent. Every time a user will go through a whole bunch of questions and they don't find the answer, for instance, they will get like CSAT scores, they can rate those experiences, and then they will, for instance, say, well, I really like this, I'll give it 5 stars, or I don't like it at all, I give it 1 star, for instance. And that's the way how you can kind of see what the users are doing and if it makes them happy or not, basically. And then, of course, you can also extend with Azure. So low code is really nice and it can help you in lots of ways, but sometimes you also maybe have a group of developers in your organization who also want to build stuff with custom code, basically. So they don't want to go through the whole low code experience. You can, of course, also extend with Azure, so you can hook all those pro code experiences, you can put that into the low code experience as well if you want to. You can really build the way you want. So as I said, you can get started really quickly with a pre-built agent, so template if you want to. You can start with natural language where you can describe what you want and it will generate an agent for you. You can also go through the UX and kind of click it together with all those different topics that I was talking about. And you can even switch to YAML if you want to. And the screenshot is not really visible well, but you can basically, in every experience inside of Copilot Studio, you can click on switch to code view, and then you will see the YAML that has been generated by all the actions you did within the low-code product. So let's go into a demo. I have been talking already for a long time, so let's move to the demo. And yes, it's visible. So here we are in the homepage of Copilot Studio. And as you can see on the left side, there's a navigation. You have home, create, agents, and library. We are now on the homepage. And this is where we can already get started with describing an agent. You have a couple of examples here. So if I want to create an agent for HR and benefits, I can click on that and it will enter already a description of what I want, for instance. In this case, we are gonna start by using a template, which is another option. So when I scroll down, I have here an overview of a bunch of agents that are already pre-built. So what I can do here is I can click on one of these templates if I want to. In this case, I'm gonna use the Safe Travels template, and this is a travel agent. So what this does, it will give me already a wizard where I can have a name for my agent. I can change the icon if I want to. I have a description here, and I also have an instructions. What's also interesting in this case is that it will add a website to the agent already. So you can see at the bottom, there is a US travel website, and that got added to it because I created that template basically. And well, we are now not in the US, so I want to also have something extra to add it to this agent. So I'm going to add knowledge here. And as you can see, there are a bunch of options that I have here. I can start adding a public website, and I can add a SharePoint site, for instance, and I can use upload files. And upload files is really interesting because I can just upload a file that I want to add. For instance, a PowerPoint file, a PDF. I can add all kinds of files there if I want to. In this case, I'm going to add a public website, and I'm going to add a public website here, which is the europa.eu website, and that's basically the EU website for travel. So I have a link here that I can add, and when I add it, I can see the link, I can see the name and the description. In this case, the name is not really telling me a lot because it's just the same as the URL. I will change that to something different so that everybody knows that it's an EU travel website. I'm confirming here that I'm the owner, and I'm adding the website to this agent. Now I can click create, and then it will start setting up my agent. This usually takes a couple of seconds, and this will basically start the whole process of deploying this agent. In the beginning, you will not see everything because it's still provisioning. You can already start working on other stuff here, but for instance at the top you can see a button publish next to the settings part, and that's grayed out. And that's grayed out because it's not fully available yet. And as you can see, it now changed from grayed out to an active button, and that's because the agent is now fully provisioned. So when you start doing this, it will sometimes take a little while before the agent is available, but you can already start by adding topics, you can add more knowledge if you want to, you can already start working on it, but you're not able to publish it yet. What I can do now is I can see on the right side I have a test pane. This is the test pane where I can see what my agent already said, and it has a welcome message. I can, for instance, click on that, and here I can see the note, for instance, that I can customize this agent topics if I want to, and I can also go to the documentation to see more about this template. When I go to that documentation, I can see how I can extend this agent, this whole template. For now, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask, what is the US visa policy? Because we already had the US website on there, so let me ask that and see what will come back. So it will now send the message to the agent. It will go through all the knowledge that I had in the agent. And here it says, the current US visa policy includes blah, 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 a whole bunch of things. I'm not going to read through all of it because that's not that interesting. But you can see at the bottom that there are some references. So those references that you see here, those are the things where it found it. So if I will hover one of those references, you can also see the URL where it found it, for instance. And if I hover the first one, let's do that. You can already see here at the bottom that there is a travel.state.gov website, and that's the US travel website that automatically got added to my agent. But we also added the EU website, so let's try something about the EU. When do I need to show a passport or ID card within Schengen? So when I send that, it will go through all the knowledge that we have added to the agent, and it will, if it gets an answer, it will add that in the message, and we will also see a reference at the bottom. And when I go to that link, you can see at the bottom, it's the europa.eu website that I just added to the agent. And this is basically how simple it is to get started with an agent, and where you can get started with chatting over your knowledge. When we talk about knowledge, I already showed you that you have multiple options here. You can start by adding public websites, you can add SharePoint sites, you can add Dataverse even. You can also drag and drop files if you want to. And when you do that, you can easily start asking questions about that knowledge. And what's really cool is that it's also multi-turn. So when you, for instance, ask a question about Schengen and you want some more information about, how Schengen works or which countries are in Schengen. You can also do all the follow-up questions if you want to. It's really cool also that when you use those internal websites, so like SharePoint for instance, it can still use the permissions of the user. So imagine with SharePoint you can have permissions on documents. So you have a bunch of documents there, and there might be a bunch of documents that are only for people who are in the Netherlands, and there are a bunch of documents who are only for people in France. Those permissions can be given in the SharePoint level, and then when you add it to the agent through Copilot Studio, it can automatically check those permissions. So it will only show the information you really have access to. So that's something that's really interesting as well. There's also a lot of other different data sources that you can add. For instance, Microsoft Fabric, which is more of the data management kind of experience that you have within the Microsoft ecosystem. And you can use Microsoft Graph, for instance, which is the API that will kind of give you access to all kinds of emails, documents, etc. around your organization. You can add that as well. Let's go and create another agent. And now I'm not going to do a template, but I'm going to start from scratch. And let me go through that experience as well. So what we can have here is at the left side, you can see the create button. Here we can start by creating a new agent. When I click on new agent, I can answer a question. You see here already, it's like a chat experience. It says, what would you like to make? And I'm going to add a text here. Create an agent to help answer questions about and troubleshoot problems with Microsoft products. Of course, you think Microsoft products are always perfect. Why do we need to ask this? But no, just just kidding. Let's send this one and see what it comes back with. As you can see on the right side, there's a pane where it will kind of summarize what I just asked for. So it will give me a whole bunch of different suggestions. Here it will say, great, now let's determine a name for the agent. How about Microsoft Help Assistant? Please confirm or suggest a different name. Well, I want to have a different one. I want to call it Microsoft Support Assistant. So let's add that. As you can see at the top and at the side, it says now Microsoft Support Assistant. So that will be added as well. Now it asks me to refine the instructions for Microsoft Support Assistant. What should be emphasized or avoided in its responses? And I'm going to say, don't talk about products or services that aren't Microsoft. Next, I will get another question about how would you like to communicate? For example, should it be formal, friendly, technical, or something else? I will say, use a professional and friendly tone. For troubleshooting requests, reply in bullet point format, because I want to kind of see a bullet point step-by-step action when it's a troubleshoot question, and have the steps to resolve, for instance. Okay, now we're at the next step, and it's asking me to add some URLs that I want to add to this agent. In this case, I'm just going to add a couple of URLs and divide it by a comma, so you can have multiple URLs at once and add those to your agent. When I send this, it will again add it to the right side, and there I can confirm that my organization owns the websites, and I will do that. And now it says, do you have any further refinements? If not, you can proceed to create the agent. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to create the agent. Again, this will do the same process as we saw before. So it will just start creating that agent. And here we see the Microsoft Support Assistant is already created here. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see that we have multiple knowledge things here. We have developer.microsoft.com, learn.microsoft.com, and microsoft.com. So those are the 3 URLs that I added to the agent. And what I can do now is I can start asking a question if I want to. So I can ask, what is Copilot? And then it should send it to the knowledge websites, and it should come back with an answer. And here it says Copilot is an AI-powered assistant, blah, blah, blah. And when I hover this, I can already see it's going to Microsoft.com. So it's using those websites again. And I can also ask another question about Power Apps, because yeah, I'm still part of Power Platform, so I wanted to ask that. And when I ask that question, it will also go through the websites that we just added, and it should come back with a response on that. And this is also immediately the thing that I was asking for, like the bullet point list. So it's already showing here that we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like all kinds of steps. That's what I asked for as well in that chat experience, and it really goes through that as well. And that's how that goes through the creation of that agent. And now, the next step is you might want to add some logic. And as I said, you have the option to also create like the topics in your agent, so you can have complete control over what your agent is saying. So you can create a question and then get the answer, and with the answer you can do stuff. I will show you the demo a little bit later, but it's really cool to go through that whole experience. And you can have just like cards on like a question, and then you get the answer. You want to maybe send a message back to a user. Those kinds of things you can do as well in there. And you can also connect to backend systems if you want to with this. What we also have is a way to customize your chat canvas. So when you want to, for instance, add this to your website, you might want to have it in a certain way so that it doesn't really look like it's something completely different. You want to make it your own style for your company, for instance. You can do that as well, and we have a couple of samples here where you can use that chat canvas and where you can go through the whole the designing of your agent. Another one is the channels. I talked about that a little bit as well. You can add your agent to a whole bunch of channels. You can add it to Teams, you can add it to your own website, you can add it to a mobile app, you can add it to Facebook. There's tons of capabilities here, and it's really easy to add it to all those different channels that you have. We also have actions. Actions are a way to talk to backend systems. So if you want to, for instance, talk to ServiceNow, Salesforce, if you want to talk to Microsoft Dynamics, if you want to talk to a whole bunch of other things, maybe your own API, you can create connectors for that, or you can just use one of the out-of-the-box connectors, and then you can use that in your agent. And let me show you how that works. So here we go to the next step. And in this case, I'm gonna refresh my page because I already created the agent. Let's hope it will load soon. There we go. So we have the Microsoft Support Assistant, that's the agent that we just created. And now I want to add some extra stuff to that. I want to add a topic here. So I'm going to topics here. I'm going to click on add a topic. And we have two options here. I can start from blank, or I can start by creating from a description with Copilot. In this case, I want to start from blank. And when I do that, I get the experience for creating a topic. And this is that designer where I was talking about. So you have like a way to design the whole conversation the way you want. What I can do at the top, it now says untitled, but I always want to name my topics because otherwise nobody knows what it actually does. So I'm going to add a name for it called Get Devices. So that's what we're going to do in this support assistant. I also want a way to find my devices that I have in my company. And I want to find them in this topic. So what I do now is in the trigger, we have trigger phrases. So trigger phrases are the way to know for the agent when it should trigger. So what you can add here is a text, get devices for instance, and you can easily use those for instance to trigger that topic. But the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a node. And I'm going to go to the add an action part. And here I'm going to select connector. And what I'm going to add here is I'm going to add the get items action, and that's part of SharePoint. And what I want to do now is I want to get all the items, all the devices from a certain SharePoint list, and I have that list available here. Here you can see I have a list of devices here. It has a status, for instance, so if it is available, a bunch of other details are in there. I have a couple that are in use or reserved, so those kinds of things are also in there. But I want to get a little bit more information from there. When I added that connector action, it also wants me to create or pick a connection to that backend service so that I can see all the different parts in there. When I add that connector action, it gets added to the canvas, and what I want to do now is I want to configure that connector action. So I need to specify where do I want to connect to. So I need to have a site address here. I'm going to add the IT site here. And another thing that I want here is I want to add a list name, and that's the devices list, because we have that devices list here. So I need to select the devices as well. But when I do this, it will get all the items in the list. I want to also filter on those items because I want to know if it's a laptop, if it's a smartphone, if it's a desktop. And to do that, I of course need to ask a question first. So I need to ask a question. I'm adding that in front of the connector action, and I'm going to ask a question to the user. Oh, pardon me. There's one step I skipped here, so let me first do that. When you have the connector action as well, you want to, of course, save the output into a variable. So let me do that as well and call that var devices. And the next step here is that we are going to add a question. I'm going to add a question, what type of device are you looking for? So I'm going to ask that to the users. And the next step will be, I want to have a couple of options. So what I'm going to add here is desktop, I'm going to add laptop, and I'm going to add smartphone. So you can now see that there are a whole bunch of different conditions got added automatically because I added those options. In this case, I'm not going to use them, so I'm going to remove them as well. So let me quickly do that. And of course, I want to again save the response from the user in a variable, and I want to name it correctly, so I'm going to add that as well. I'm going to call it var device type, and now we have the device type, but I also want to create a filter because I want to add that filter to the connector action. And I'm going to do that by setting a variable, and I'm going to create a variable here. When I create the variable, it's named var1, and I don't want to call it var1, I want to call it something meaningful, so I'm going to call it var filter in this case. And I want to add a value to that filter, and where I do that, I'm going to select the icon to the side. I can set a variable immediately, or I can use it. Uh-oh. I can, what's happening here? Let's hope it will come back. Oh, yes, it's there. Phew. But I'm going to add a formula here because I want to combine certain things as an OData filter. So I'm going to add a little string here. It's a concatenate function. This is the formula language that I was talking about. So it has a concatenate function, and what it will do is it will have an OData filter, status equals available, and the asset type needs to equal to the var device type that we selected before. I'm going to insert that, and now we have our filter available. Now I also want to add that to the connector action, of course. So there is an advanced input called filter query, and what I can do here is I can add the var filter. And that will make sure that now it will filter all the items in that list based on availability, so it should be available, the status should be available, and the device type should be the device type that the user responded with in the question. But when I now will trigger this action, it won't do anything. It will just get the items and it won't send it back to the user. So what I want to do now is I want to send a message, And in this case, I'm not going to enter a simple plain text message, but I'm going to add an adaptive card. And adaptive cards are pretty cool because they can make it a little bit more formatted. So it can show you the results in a better way than just text, for instance. So I'm going to add the adaptive card here. And when I do that, oh, is it working? Let me see that again. So here we're going to add the adaptive card. And I can now not see it, but I'm going to save the topic so that I can show you as well how that will look. So I saved the whole topic. The adaptive card is there. It will filter all the stuff. So let me refresh the testing pane. And now I'm going to trigger that topic. So I'm going to ask, what devices are there? And I will expect it to trigger the topic. And it will already say, what type of device are you looking for? So it's hitting that question that I just created. And it will give me the options here to click on. So I can say desktop, laptop, or smartphone. In this case, I'm going to click smartphone. But before I do that, I want to explain that there is going to be a little bit of a different expectation, for me at least, what I would get back. I was going to expect that I would get a response with all the devices. But in this case, it's saying it needs additional permissions. And this is because it's using the user permission to go through that list. And this is the part where I was talking about before. You need to really think about the permissions here as well, because I need to connect to that backend service, SharePoint, to perform this action. So it's really using those permissions. And now when I hit connect, it's going to another page where I can select my account, and then I will be able to connect to that backend service. And I can click on connect here. It asks me to create a connection or pick a connection. Because SharePoint is part of my account, it will automatically create that action for me. It's all single sign-on. And I can click submit here. And now it will load that connection, and it will show me the status of connected. So now I'm connected to the backend service. And when I hit retry, it will trigger that action again, and it will come back with a bunch of devices. So it will show me some smartphones in the response. And this is something that is really, really cool about these connector actions. It can use those different types of authentication. So it can use the user authentication, or you can use the Copilot author authentication. And with the user authentication, it will always ask the user to log in and to make sure that the user has the rights to see those devices. You can imagine when you are at a company and the IT part of the company has a lot of developers, they might need different laptops than, for instance, somebody in HR or somebody in marketing. They will have different needs for their laptops, so you also want to have this user authentication. But for now, I'm done with the topic here. Let's move on and go to the next part. If it works. Come on, you can do it. There we go. And that's the AI Builder Prompt Builder. This is a really cool thing because you can create AI prompts with the Prompt Builder, and that is basically a reusable prompt that you can create, and you can really create a function like it. So what you can do is you can add a prompt, and it can have an input, it can have output, etc. And you can design that in the Prompt Builder. When you create an AI prompt, it will be available not just for Copilot Studio, but also for other parts. And it will act in a function-like manner. So when I will create one in a little bit, you can easily see that I can have some inputs in there, and it will then trigger the AI model, and it will come back with the output of that prompt. We can also build multimodal prompts, so I can add a file or an image as an input if I want to, or I can add text to the inputs. And I can also ground my prompts in Dataverse data. Dataverse is the database behind the Power Platform, and you can also use that data inside of these prompts. You have different OpenAI models available right now. The GPT 4.0 Mini and 4.0 are available in this prompt builder. And if you want to, as an output, you can get text, which is really interesting when you have an agent, because it's like a chat-like experience. But sometimes you also, for instance, in Power Automate, you would like a more structured output, and then you can use JSON. So then you will get JSON, and you can just use all the different properties in those JSON objects. And let me go through that quickly as well. So let me go through this part first. Okay, yeah, there we go. So this next demo will be based on the earlier agent that we created. We created the travel agent, the safe travels part. So I'm going to use that again. And I want to add a little bit more to it. So I'm going to add another topic. I'm going to add that and start from blank. I'm going to add a name here. I'm going to call it travel plans. I'm going to add some trigger phrases to make sure that we can trigger it. And, oh, there we go. I want to have a travel plan, and can you help me build a travel plan as the trigger phrases? So I'm going to use that. And next, I want to ask a question again. I want to ask, where are you going, and how many activities do you want to do? And I'm going to do this with an adaptive card. This is a little bit of a different approach than the one that we used a little bit earlier. So I'm going to do another adaptive card. But what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to add a simple adaptive card. And because this is a really simple adaptive card, it will show me a preview here. And what it shows me here is an adaptive card travel plan, and it will ask me where are you going to and how many activities are you looking for. It's like a form. And then I can do something else after that. What I want to do after this is I want to create a prompt here. So I'm going to add a new prompt. And, oh, did I click on it correctly? Let's do a new prompt. And what I can do here is I can add travel, call it travel plans, for instance. I can add a prompt in here. And I already predefined it, so it's going to say, please give me number options for activities in destination for people who are there for the first time. Please return a numbered list with emojis in the name of the activity and give it a brief description. When I do this, I can also use inputs. And you can see that I have some parts here which have square brackets around it. That's how I kind of added placeholders for the inputs. So I'm going to add two inputs, number and destination. And when I add those, I can add them as text here. I can say, for instance, I want to have number. I can add sample data here. I can add another input. I can call it destination. And I'm going to call this Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And now I want to change this. So I'm going to select number. And I'm going to add a slash. And then I can add the number input that I just created. I can add that to the prompt here. I need to do the same thing for destination, so I'm going to do that as well. And change this into destination. And now I already configured my prompt for now. So this is like a function, it has a couple of inputs. I already added sample data here. So you can see that we have 3 and Amsterdam, the Netherlands. So I can already test my prompt with those sample data. So when I hit test prompt, it will trigger the AI model, it will go through the prompt, and it will give me a couple of options for stuff to do in Amsterdam. So here I can see the bike tour of the city is an option. I can visit the Rijksmuseum, or I can stroll through the Keukenhof Gardens. So those are the options that I have now. I can hit save, and when I hit save, it will save the AI prompt that I just created, and it will add it to my Copilot Studio topic that I just had. So here we go, and it should edit in a little bit. And there we go. We can see we have a little card for the prompt. It will ask for 2 inputs, and those inputs are already there because we added that as input in the prompt, but we also know them as outputs of our adaptive card because we were asking for a destination and the amount of activities. So I'm going to hook them up together, and I'm going to say, well, I want to have the destination that people put in the adaptive card. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to add the number also from the adaptive card. The output, I want to create a variable for that, so I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to, again, name it to something so that people know what it actually is. So it's prompt output. And of course, I want to also send the output to the user. So I'm going to add a message here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert the variable that we just created, the prompt output, and the prompt output has two properties. It has the finish reason, and it has text. The text is the thing I'm more interested in, so I'm going to click on that. And now I'm going to save it and run through this part as well. So let's refresh the test your agent part. And let's start by asking about a travel plan. You can already see that the travel plan adaptive card is there. So what I can do now is I can ask, if I can answer the questions, where are you going to? Next week I'm going to go to London, so I'm going to ask for those activities, and I'm going to again ask for 3 different activities. I'm going to submit it, and it will already show me a bunch of options as activities for in London. So I can visit the British Museum, the London Eye, or go through Hyde Park. Let me quickly go back to the presentation and wrap up. Okay, so extensibility, I haven't really talked about that so far, but what's really cool about the whole Copilot experience when you want to create stuff in, for instance, Microsoft Copilot Studio, you can do the low-code way of creating agents, but there's also a more pro-code way, and that's Azure AI Foundry. That can you can do a whole bunch of things with with code. So if you want to do a more code-first approach, you can do that with Azure AI Foundry. But why I really like this slide is because it's not a choice of doing either or like one of them. You don't want to choose one of them, because within your company you always have people who like low code and people who like code. So it's more of like a dial that you can switch back and forth between the two, and you can use them together as well. So if you have a lot of low-code people, you can move a little bit more to the Copilot Studio part, but that doesn't mean that you can't use Azure AI Foundry, because Azure AI Foundry, you can also integrate that into Copilot Studio if you want. So you can still have the developers that will create in pro code the agents as well. You can hook them up into the low-code experience as well as you want to. Copilot Studio and Azure are really better together. This is more of a reference slide. There are tons of options that you can do to extend with Azure. So if you are in Copilot Studio and you want to use Azure AI Search, you can do that. Or if you want to have more telemetry with Azure App Insights, you can do that as well. There are tons of options there available as well. And lastly, there are 2 QR codes and links that you can go through. On the left side, get started today. This will have a lot of links available where you can learn more about Copilot Studio. And on the right side, we have the watch tutorials link, and that is basically a list of YouTube videos which you can go through to learn more about Copilot Studio. And with that, I would like to say thank you very much. If you have questions, please come forward to the site. I will answer them. I will pack up my stuff and then answer them to make sure that you have enough information. Thanks a lot.